Hey, welcome to the Black. Yes, this is where we have the deep conversations. This is when we keep it real. Amen. Amen. Thank you so much for tuning in. For those that will be checking me out on the live and or replay, we appreciate you. We appreciate your support to the channel. As Dr. Kesha, you guys are amazing. All of those that chose to subscribe, you are absolutely amazing, and we appreciate you as well. And also to the new subscribers, shout out to you for your support as well. Just so that you know, this particular channel, we do focus on relationship coaching, personal development, and we're going to add on a little bit of this, a little bit of that. We also focus on spiritual growth and development through our prayer sessions. It's a lot of things that we focus on, but it's really all about the whole man. It's really all about, every area of life being progressive and growing and nurturing. All right, the whole man, a holistic aspect approach to development. And so I'm super duper excited to introduce to YouTube. We've been doing Dating Chronicles for quite some time, off and on our Facebook. But I thought it would be dope to introduce it to the YouTube. And as I'm resting here, I will not, when it's in the black, we're not coming on camera. All right. We just gonna sit and talk, especially if I'm not on a third party, stream. We just gonna have the candid conversation in the black. Is that all right with you? Because it's all right with me. All right. Because I feel like this. When we don't have to worry about our image and we don't have to worry about this and this, we can keep it all the way a buck, right? We could just be honest and forthcoming and keep it real because I believe in doing so, we're going to help out a lot of folks. Shout out to all the singles out there. Again, we're talking about dating. Yeah, we're talking about dating. All right. So, shout out to all the single folks out there, all the single people, not just the single ladies. I want to holler at the single men as well because we're always preaching to the choir, and I find that to be counterproductive, to constantly be preaching to the choir. So I'm really hoping and praying some brothers come through, take a listen, and maybe you can, learn a thing, or two, you know what I mean, about the heart of a single woman that you're in pursuit of. And maybe that will give you another perspective, maybe that can help you to grow as an individual as you come to understand the way the mind of a woman is wired. I do find that the saying that men are from Mars and women are from Venus, it is true. The way that we are wired, the way that God made us, is just two complete different ways. Now we meet in the middle, and that is the blessing that is a union, because we pull our unique personalities, our new unique perspectives, our gifts, our talents, the fact that you are masculine, the fact that we're feminine, we bring all those things together and we become a superhuman. And that's how it's supposed to work, and it's by God's design. But oftentimes the thing that you need is the thing that you don't want. And so let's talk about, again, and this is my dating chronicle. So I'm going to go ahead and share some stories, some anecdotes from personal experience in the dating world. And I have been married, I have been engaged. And so this is coming from a full perspective, right? A full perspective. Because sometimes you get a perspective from a coach in the dating space that have never been married. And sometimes you get a perspective from a coach in a dating space that have never been divorced, or you get a perspective from the dating space from a person that has never been engaged, let alone in a long term relationship. So you have, from this platform, a full understanding, right, of all the things pertaining to dating and relationships. We can help you over here because we can tell you not only the do's and the don'ts, but how to prevent from falling into the traps that often come in dating and relationships, so that you can be wiser, smarter, and go faster. That's the benefit of learning from someone else's experience. You go farther, you go faster, because you've learned some of the loopholes, you've learned the game, you've learned some of the rules of the game, the rules of engagement, so you can avoid some unnecessary heartache, kind of child, and some unnecessary pain. Because anytime you're dealing in the space of relationships, that's a very sensitive place, because that's really about a natural desire to want to be in community and a natural desire to want to be in a family. And all of us want that. I don't care what people say. People always want to put, because they're hardened in their heart. So they're gonna tell you, "Oh, I don't care. It's so what? I'm cool." And in some ways, and in some areas, and with some folks, they are cool being single, but yet they're not talking down to or about relationships, right? In a negative way. They're just saying relationships are cool if that's what you want, but right now, I'm content with being me, and to me, that's okay. That to me is a very healthy mindset, and it's completely okay if you don't want to be in a relationship. I'm really talking about those that really have a negative, purview with regards to relationships while they're single. And the reason why they have a negative purview regarding this, because they've had failures, or they've had heartaches or breaks, or they've been through some things, some very hard things. They've been manipulated, they've been deceived, they've been tricked, they've been played with, right? And so they're still healing. And so their perspective, unfortunately, is really coming from a place of hurt and a place of pain. And so let's talk about all of the things, right? Let's talk about all things. So let me give you a few stories, right? All right, so here we go. The first, it's not in terms of sequence, but in terms of what I want to share. Those of you all that are on dating apps, I know that this is gonna, again, I'm preaching to the choir, so you know what time it is. For those that are familiar, you again log on to these dating apps. They ask you to upload your photos. They ask you to give a description or to share something about yourself. Some dating apps may ask you specific questions because they're trying to gather data to share on your particular profile to those suitors or individuals, so that they can kind of decipher if you're their type or not, or if they're willing to try to see, where it will go and all the things. Shout out to all the dating apps. It doesn't really matter at what level. I'm not saying that there aren't some dating platforms that are better than other. I believe that might be the case. There are some, because even I've seen lately, I believe it was on the court show, where a woman paid for a matchmaker, and she paid thousands upon thousands of dollars for the matchmaker. So so whether you're on Facebook dating, whether you're actually paying for a matchmaker, which is something that I was really interested in. Actually, we are providing the service at one point in time, but I just don't have the time for that. I'm really hoping and praying that we can evolve to maybe in the latter part of my life, I can take all the wisdom that I have and help to really match some folks, especially in the religious space, because what I find is people have a hard time really finding people that are compatible. They really, really, truly do with their lifestyle. And when you add that faith-based component, it makes it even more difficult to find somebody suitable or compatible with your lifestyle. But I digress. So let me go into this. So again, shout out to all those in the dating app world, whether you are paying a high price for it or whether you are getting or access for free. I'm just letting you know. You can have challenges in both. All right, in every area. Because what remains the same is the humanity. What remains the same is that, again, you can't make people participate. You know what I mean? As much as we would, listen. If this was a perfect world, We would have the perfect available folks, in all shades and sizes and success in terms of economic, social economic status, all the things, to be able to provide for everybody, hook up everybody, because we need diversity in dating for sure, because not everybody's cup of tea, right? Not everybody's cup of tea. And that's one of the things that you need to know. And I will say this before I go into the story. What I do find is people are not forthcoming, not all folks at least, are forthcoming about what it is that they want. So ask yourself this question. Again, this is talking about Dating Chronicles. We're talking about dating. We're in the dating space right now. And if you happen to be in, the process of dating and trying to find your person or be found by your person, this is a great conversation for you. Know what it is that you want. If you have a particular type, that is that you are naturally attracted to a particular body type. You are naturally attracted to a particular shade of person. Now, you can't help this, by the way. You are naturally attracted. This is things that you're naturally drawn to. I'm not talking about you just being selective and you just, even with a preference, some of that involves having a natural attraction to something. And it could be about genetics. And it could be God given. Like God gave you that attraction to that particular person because of the genetics, right? Because in mating, right, with that particular type, you're going to produce a certain type of child that's going to carry a certain type of genetic, and the genetics are going to carry on and on and on. So I believe there is a method to the madness. I don't think it's necessarily about, again, to each, their own. There's some people that are into people that are big boned, as we call them, full figure folks. There's some people that love and only prefer people that are voluptuous. You know what I'm saying? And that's it. They don't like skinny women. So we can't shade the folks that don't like skinny women, just like we can't shade the folks that prefer a skinny woman. Does that make sense? Or a man, or prefer a woman that is more athletic in her body. Now, bodies change, and that is a part of it too. So you can't be so fixated on bodies. And when I say bodies change, you can be, I mean, when it comes to meticulous about working out, you can be really serious about, body fat and, all the things, right? Healthy living. That could really be your jam, like for real. And you may want somebody that's on that same, and that's okay, especially if you want your equal. I don't find a problem with that, nor am I shading that. I'm just saying that sometimes life happens to us where that can shift, that can change, whether it's an accident, whether it's an incident, life can happen. So if you're solely fixated on the physical, you're going to get into trouble there because life does happen. There's some unpredictables, right? Variables that we cannot change, y'all, as much as we want. So you can find the ideal physical specimen of a person that you're attracted to, that you're drawn to naturally. Get that person. And if you are just, again, you're not considering character, you're not considering the spirituality, you're not considering the mental, you're not considering emotional, you're just fixated on the physical. And then if something was to happen to that, then what else would you fall back on in terms of the person's persona or their personality? What would you fall back on? Now, again, and I'm saying all that to say, you're going to have more on your list of things that you desire beyond the physical because life is unpredictable. And if you're just fixated on that and something was to happen, God forbid they lose a limb. God forbid during childbirth or even after, they begin to pick up the weight. After a certain age, women go through perimenopausal symptoms and menopausal symptoms where there's some weight that is hard to get off after a certain time. That women lose estrogen. So it's just something about the body that men need to understand that some things are simply just out of our control. And it's not about eating. It's not about certain things. It's simply about biology. And you need to understand the science at some point, right? The medical science. You really need to understand that about your lady. And the same with men. Men go through changes in their bodies as well, right? They go through changes as they grow older. We refer to it as the dad bod, right? He's not as he once was when it comes to his agility when he was younger. So his body goes through changes. So when we're so fixated on the physical world, when we're so and solely, and I'm not saying this, it's not. I'm not saying you should have a standard. It's whatever. You know what I mean? If you're into that, it's a. I'm not judging you. But what I'm saying is that it should be beyond the physical. Because trust me, when I say, when you're dealing with character and you're dealing with personality, that has a tendency to overshadow the physical. That person may be the bomb.com. They may be all the things physical. They may have everything that you can possibly want or imagine when it comes to a body type that you love and enjoy. But that personality though, but that character though, it is so toxic where you just become uninterested. You become unattracted to that person because of how they move and because of who they are and how they be. Like you could be totally turned off, though they may be the hottest things in sliced bread physically. But in every other area, they're failing miserably. So I'm just saying, like, you have to consider the whole of the person, not just the physical. But you should have in mind the type of person that you prefer. And again, I don't have an issue with preferences. I just feel like the physical should be the last on the totem pole, if you will, in terms of things. That's what I'm saying. Don't allow that to be at the forefront because I guess when you're younger, again, you have this mindset that I'm a superhero and then somehow I'm going to always forever stay young. And the truth of the matter is it's just not true, right? It's a fallacy. And I think all because of your development, the specific development of your brain. Yeah, you do have that sense or that feeling, you know what I mean? That understanding when you're youthful. But as you grow older, reality will set in. All right. And as you begin to have experience, in relationships, you begin to really decipher and determine, especially if you're growing, especially if you're evolving as a person and you're maturing, you're going to come to the understanding that, like, you know what, maybe this is not as important as I thought it was. Right. You know what, I'm going to lean more over here in this area. I think to me, that may be more of importance than this over here. So we change and we evolve over the course of time. So stay in tune with that elevation, that um evolution. Stay in tune with that, because that's going to matter as you grow, especially during this dating process, because some of you all may have gotten married super duper young and now you're divorced and you're putting yourself back out there. I know that you're going to have a reality check, because life is not what it was in terms of dating. Dating is a whole different beast today. This is 2026. It's a whole different animal. Now we have things like situationships. Now we have things like, let's see where it goes. Now we have things like ghosting. Now we have things like emotional unavailability. Now we have stonewalling. Now we have gaslighting. All right. Now, these things may have existed in time past, but we didn't have a language for it. And the way we did relationships were different. During our earlier days, for those of us that are still here, shout out, we dated in the 80s, we dated in the 90s. It was more about proximity. It was about people that we've known that were in the hood or people that we went to school with or whatever like that. It was folks that we worked with. It was about dating and proximity. Now we are dating people from across state lines. We are dating people from international, like literally international lines. We done cross into whole little different time zones, child, honey, different nationalities, different ethnicities. Come on here. All right, so we have all of this diversity in dating. We have now cultural, clashes, and all the things. And so it is different. Now, some say different is good. It depends on your perspective. The things that I mentioned a little bit, a few seconds ago, gaslighting and the ghosting, all that stuff, not so much good. That's not good at all, right? Very toxic. But we have toxic elements because when you have the distance, when you have people that are growing up differently, so you don't have the same core values, you're going to move differently because there's certain codes that certain communities have. You know what I mean? Because there's subcultures within lives and within lifestyles. There's subcultures. So there's certain codes. So, growing up, yeah, we pretty much told the truth. We didn't lie. If we didn't like you, we didn't like you. Or if it's not going nowhere, it's not going nowhere. Or, whatever. I'm not saying that there weren't folks that did cheating. I'm sure there were people, but a lot of it wasn't going on. And just like I said, because a lot of people were forthcoming about that stuff, and or they were saying, hey, listen, I'm not settling with you. You're one of many. Is that cool with you? Either people will be cool with it or not, right? And I'm talking about the dating space. I'm not talking about in the marital aspect. Of course, that's adultery, but I'm talking about in the dating space. You're dating until you're not, right? You're single until you're not. I tell people that all the time. You're single until you're married. But I'm just saying there's rules to this, right? There are rules of engagement when it comes to being single. You treat people like you want to be treated because that stuff will turn around and bite you in the butt. How you treat someone else is going to turn on you. You're going to feel the effects of that. That's going to come back to you. So you really have to be careful when you're dating. Though there is a lot of miles and whatnot between us in terms of time zones, because now we've expanded this whole dating process. There's one universal law, and I don't call it karma, but the Bible calls it reaping what you sow. All right, so that's a universal law. So you have to also keep that in mind. Though these people are, again, distant from you, doesn't mean the consequences won't bite you in the butt later in terms of how you treat people or if you decide to play with people or manipulate people and all those things. So I'm just saying, like, if you're a person that's not healed, you know what I mean, then it's probably best that you not participate in the dating space. It's just best that you not. Now, if you're a person that just wants companionship, right? If you're a person that wants companionship and you just want to hang out every now and then, just be honest, right? Because that's okay. It really is. Dating doesn't always have to lead to marriage. Yeah. Dating doesn't always have to lead to marriage. It doesn't. But I think that every individual should make it clear what their intentions are. Because you may find that person that may say, I just want companionship. I just want a person that would just be, a life partner. Like, I just want somebody to hang out with me when I want to hang out, for social purposes, and or I just want something casual, as they would say. And if that's what you truly want, I'm sure there's someone out there that's on the same page that just wants something casual. And the two of you may be great for each other. But if you're a person that wants marriage, for example, then you should not connect with someone, or someone that is casual should not connect with you. And especially if you're like, well, this is what I really want in my heart of hearts. I don't want anything serious. You know what I mean? I really truly don't want that. I'm not ready for that. Then if somebody that is looking for something long term, something serious and or marriage, then you should tell them, I don't think we're going to be suitable because we're really not at the same place with what it is that we want. Sometimes you have to be open and honest, and or you should not pursue them either, because this is what I find. People that want something casual be pursuing people that want something serious and want marriage. It's weird. In your heart of hearts, if you happen to get in a relationship with this person, that you're not willing to seal the deal. You're not willing to take them off the market. You're going to remain on the market. Then why even like their photo? Why even, send a message? Why even flirt? Why even give them hope? Like, why do that? Again, these are the games. That's what I'm talking about, that unfortunately are very much so in play in this day and age that we're in. Again, these manipulation to, I'm gonna get what I want. No, that's evil. It's evil because a lot of times you casual folks are the one that's in these. messages of these folks that want something serious, because I know you've seen their profile. Like, unless you just saw their picture, decided to skip over the information and went right straight to the message board just to say, "Hey, you're beautiful, beautiful, blah, blah, blah," and you didn't read nothing. You didn't see. You didn't do yourself a favor and do them a favor. Again, treat others like you want to be treated. That should be the golden rule in how you pursue your dating life and also marriage. Any relationship, you should treat people how you want to be treated. If you're only seeking a casual experience, or you just want to be just a it's a friend, and people say friends, and it's weird. Even some of the people that say they just want a friendship, you're either lying to yourself, because I really don't understand. You're still in the inboxes and the messages of these folks that want something serious, but you only want a friendship. And then you pursue them, or you shoot your shot essentially. And then you're like, "Oh, I just want some," but you knew that they wanted something serious. You knew that they wanted marriage. Like, why do that? And then when they tell you, and then you're like, "Oh, well, I can be open for that." No, but you know in your heart of hearts that you're not open to that. You just only want a friendship, or you want friends with benefits. Again, people should be honest, because to me, you will save a lot of unnecessary heartache and break. So you may break somebody else's heart, but trust me, that stuff is coming back around. It really truly is. And I'm really speaking not necessarily from experience, like say that I did it, but when relationships didn't go well and it was the other person on my end, like in my situation, it was the other person. Those people, like literally, God had those people to reconnect with me just to tell me, like, I messed up. I guess literally, and I'm talking years and years and years and years and years later. God had them to come back and say, and I was minding my black owned business. Like, you know what I mean? I wasn't even looking, thinking about these people, and God literally allowed them to come back into my life. I was in the process of writing a book because they all said the same exact thing, but they were saying basically, "I apologize. It was me. Like, I really messed up." And they ended up reaping that part. It's not just, "Oh, I have a conviction," or, "I learned my lesson." No, these people had to learn the hard way. They got back the thing. They had to pay. They paid for that. So I'm saying, I'm just letting you know, I'm just trying to save you some unnecessary heartache and break. You're gonna reap what you sow when you play with people's hearts and when you play with people's minds. You're gonna reap that. And if you don't reap it directly, the next generation does. Because again, God has a way that sometimes you may feel like, "Oh, you've dodged a ball. It skipped you, the consequences." Your children, you're the next generation. So be ever so careful how you treat people. That's the story. That's the lesson. Be careful. So if you have a preference in terms of status, you don't want to be married. Okay, listen. A preference is a preference. Where you are in life is that's your business. No, nobody's hating on that for sure. If you don't want to be married, it's probably best that you not be married, and then that's okay. And you may meet somebody that may want the same thing, and that's okay too. But I'm just saying, stop bothering the people that do. Right? Let's just go with that. Stop bothering the people that do. Okay? No, they're not gonna make you change your mind. Your first thought was the honest thought. That was the true thought. So that you know. Because what feelings do, and feelings are very deceptive, by the way. Initially, because the attraction is there, and the relationship and what's happening is new, it will make you believe that you will change your mind. But once everything settles, the reality, the truth of how you really feel about relationships and or where you want to be will begin to shine through, will begin to come up to the forefront. And by that time, you may have invested some time into this relationship. That person has invested some emotional, attachment to you. And now you come and say, "Oh, I really don't." The same thing with children. Same thing with children. There are some people that don't want children, don't want children. And at a certain age, I even find myself thinking, do I really want to be in a relationship with someone that has small children? I don't mind people having children because I have children. Like, that's crazy. That's crazy work to say that you would rather be with somebody that doesn't have children at all. Again, if that's a preference, okay, I'm not neither here nor there with it. What I'm saying is that that's kind of hypocritical to say, you know what I mean? You have children and you don't want somebody with children. Like, to me, again, but if that's your preference, okay, all right. But for you, but to say and to be honest and say, you know what? I'm an empty nester now. My children are grown. And honestly, I would probably prefer somebody that's really on the same page right now. That is okay to want to try to connect with somebody or be involved with somebody that is on the same in terms of lifestyle. Because let's say right now you are retired. You can get around, you can travel, you can, you got a little bit more downtime or whatever. You have some liberties and some flexibilities with your life. And you would prefer, and to me there's nothing wrong with having that preference, somebody that's on the same timing, that somebody's on the same page. If you're free to go, free to explore, you're empty nest, you don't have to worry about children, maybe you got grands or whatever like that, okay, whatever. But you, that freedom though, you've worked enough hours in where you can retire, or something has happened where you're pushed into early retirement. Maybe it was your job saying they're about to do layoffs, but hey, you can take a retirement package, or maybe something happened to you physically where you're just not able to do the job that you used to perform because something physically happened to you. But other than that, you really can just be free to live your life. You've just been forced into retirement, and you meet somebody that's still grinding, and they're working not only a 9 to 5, but they're working an additional job. And then on top of that, they have a small business that they're trying to get off the ground. Or maybe they're a business owner and they work all these hours. And you may be like, I want somebody that's, and to me, that is completely okay. I don't really, no judgment here. I find that to be compatible when it comes to lifestyle. But you got to keep it real. That's what I'm saying. You need to know you enough to know what makes sense for you in terms of compatibility. It's lifestyle, it's character, it's faith, right? It's a physical, it's the emotional, it's a lot of aspects. So you need to be clear on what it is that you want, what makes you feel great, what makes even bring out the best in you. You need to be aware of that. Self-awareness is the key to finding your person. Self-awareness is the key to finding your person. If you're not as aware of yourself, you're going to have problems. You're going to keep making poor choices and probably experiencing a lot of unnecessary heartache because you're not clear. So you're just this kind of just dating and just getting in this, and you'll find yourself again. I don't want to use the word failing because I believe there's always opportunities for lessons. But at the same time, if you take this advice, like I said, you'll go further and you will avoid a lot of unnecessary heartache. So the more you know about yourself and gauge where you are right now and in your life, what it is that you feel like you need. And again, this is your assessment of your current, but you also have to keep in mind the future aspirations. And for those of you all that are godly, you have to involve God. Like, you need the God factor in this. Because the people that you choose, especially for those of you all that are looking for something long term and you're looking to get married, you need some, I want to say, spiritual intel. You need God to reveal some truths, because that's going to help you make some decisions as well. All right. So you can't just be present day focus. You have to also be a futurist. You have to be concerned about your future as well. So when you're looking at this person and you're considering this person, you're really looking at, all right, in the future, could this person be a good father? Could this person be a good mother to my future children? You have to think like that, especially for those of you all that want children, haven't had children, want more children. Then when you're dating this person and you're asking yourself a question based on the data that you're collecting in that time, because that's the purpose of dating, is to collect data. It really is. It's not just about having a good time. You would hope that you have great experiences along the way, but the focus should be on collecting data to determine if that person is the one for you, especially for those that are looking for long-term marriage. You're just not trying to just have an experience. It's beyond that. That should come with it. So again, make the main thing, keep the main thing the main thing. And I think you won't be lost in the sauce if you keep the main thing the main thing. And you have to lead in that way. You almost have to have, again, what I would refer to as rules of engagement. Because if you don't, you can easily get lost in the emotional aspect of it. You can easily get lost in the moment. You can easily get lost in the feelings and who it is that you're with in the moment. But this is definitely a momentary thing if you're not careful, and not nothing that would be futuristic if you're not careful. All right. So knowing those things are important. Now, for those of you all that are not as serious about your spirituality right now, you've been raised a certain type of way when it comes to faith, and maybe you're not as serious as you want to be, but maybe in your heart of hearts, maybe in your mind, maybe you verbalize, after I get married, once I get children, I'm going to get serious about my faith because I want to make sure that my children are grounded in faith, I want to teach my children the Bible and stuff like that. Okay, so maybe right now you may not be where you feel like you should be, right? When it comes to your spirituality, maybe that is some, an ongoing goal for you in terms of pursuing a stronger relationship with God. But right now, maybe you're not on that path too strong, but you were taught, you went to church, okay, you were exposed to faith, all right, that's something that is a part of you, but it's not something you don't live out loud in your faith right now. You downplay it, and or it's just not a priority for you for whatever the reason. I'm not shading you, because there was a season in my life where it was the same. I was raised going to church, and there was a season where I didn't go to church at all, right? But I was yet raised going to church. I had experiences with God, even though God was not the priority in my life. There was a period in my life where God was not the priority. So I completely understand that. And then there was a threshold where I crossed over, where God was my everything. You know what I mean? He's my everything. So he is the priority. He's numero uno, right? Above anything and everything right now. So I can't choose to make based on my mindset when I was in the 1990s, in my 1990 mindset. I'm no longer there, right? I have to choose based on where I am right now and the future. Like I said, we're in a dating space. We are not just focused on the present. We are futurists. We are focusing on the future. So every decision that you make now in dating, in relationships, in partnering and pairing will affect your future, friends. So take this seriously. I don't care if it's a fling. The flings, the present flings are going to affect your future, because your fling may break your heart. So that's why you have to be careful. You really, I don't think people really understand it until it's understood, and sometimes it's often too late. Even the casuals, you need to be careful, because it will affect or impact your future depending on who you decide to connect with. And right now, yes, more casual than anything else. I don't really want anything serious. There may come a time when you will. There may be. Then what? Depending on who you decided to get involved with and how your heart was handled and how that relationship played out, could possibly impact your future. All right, so keep that in mind. So when it comes to faith, if you know that you have a strong faith background, but right now you're not walking in that, right now that's not a priority for you for whatever the reason, why would you connect with someone that is anti God and anti Christ? Why? Unless you're a person that is an atheist, if you're a person that is agnostic, if you're a person that worships other things, that is your business, that is your choice. God has given us the free will, right? He really truly has. So there's no judgment here. But if you're a person of faith and you were raised that way, and maybe it's not your priority now, you still have to take that into consideration when you're in a dating space of dating somebody that is compatible with your principles concerning faith. You still have to consider it. Even though right now it is not a consideration for you, and shame on you, but hey, I get it. Like I said, I made those choices too. And we have our own journey when it comes to faith. We do. But I'm just saying, you really have to take that into consideration. And oftentimes people don't, because they're living in the moment. But I said, Now we've shifted in our mindset, right? Since this conversation, you should be like, hey, you know what? Dr. Keisha's right. I should just, I can't just consider now. It's not just YOLO. I have to consider the future. All right. Consider the future. All of these things. All right. Same with children and childbearing. Again, you're considering you want somebody long term, you want marriage. You got to know what you want when it comes to children. Now, I'm not saying that people can't change their minds, but there's a value also that is connected to those thoughts and feelings as well. Um, I'll give an example of a famous couple, and they may not, maybe years down the line, they'll be honest about this particular thing. I believe there's a couple, and I believe it's Devin of Devon Franklin and Megan Good. I really do feel like the relationship shifted when Megan didn't want children right away. Honestly, that's my belief. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. I could be corrected because I'm not in their life and everything. But I will say that at the height, her career began to shift, and she was at the height of her career when they opted to, and I want to say he more than her. Like, he divorced her. Let's keep that in mind. She did not want the divorce. For those that have been keeping track and listening to interviews and stuff like that, she did not want the divorce. She said that that was her biggest fear, that she would be like her mother, get into a relationship and then it end, whatever, for whatever reason. She didn't want that. All right. She did not want to divorce him. He divorced her. Now, mind you, he's crying and all the things. And shout out to him because I actually like him personally. I really do. Shout out to him. We're fellow 7 day people. So, hey, shout out to him. But I will say is that I think sometimes, like I said, in the beginning, we were willing to accept so many different things. But within our heart of hearts, our values are different. And when it came to children, they were not on the same page. Now she talks of talks like she's ready to settle down. She's ready to have children because her lifestyle, things have shifted quite a bit in her life now that she's married with Jonathan. And they may be more compatible when it comes to their values than she was with Devin, believe it or not, or Devon, or whatever his name is. um she may be more compatible with Jonathan when it comes to values, where she feels more comfortable having a child with him versus having a child with her then husband, oddly enough. And it may have been a subconscious thing. Maybe she didn't even, maybe she wasn't even conscious about it. Maybe it wasn't conscious, but maybe in her heart she felt like, I can't have a child right now. And maybe again at the time she was putting her career, at the forefront. But he wanted children like yesterday. So they were not equally yoked in that particular thing. They weren't. They weren't. And later on it just manifests itself, and eventually that particular relationship came to an end. Saying all that to say, if you don't want children, be honest. Don't be trying to be like, well, I'll see. Maybe down the line. No, be honest. Maybe, listen, I don't want children right now, and I don't know if I'm gonna want to have children later. And you that want children, stop being like, well, let's see what no. Hear what they're saying to you and believe them. Like you said, Yana Van Zant, when people show you who they are, believe them. When people tell you, whether they're showing you or telling you, believe them. Okay? They don't want kids on their profile. No kids, just as plain as day. Please believe it and stop trying to get into situations and get into relationships and change people. That's the worst thing you could ever do. You're setting yourself up for failure. Real talk. So if they don't want kids, if you don't want kids, tap into that. What is it that you want concerning children? Like right now, I'm like, I don't mind people that already have children. I don't mind that people have older children or children that are at an age where they're about to graduate. Okay, that's about the extent. But do I want a person that has young children? The answer right now, if I was to be honest with you, is no. Is no. Young children, no, because of the age that I'm at. Now, if I was in my 30s, then yeah, I would be open to it. If I was in my early 40s, maybe I would be open to it. But at this age in life, the answer is becoming no because of my responsibilities. Children consume your life. How do I know? I have two. And like I said, I'm now an empty nester. They consumed my life. They consumed it. And that's just a reality. So if you were to get married to somebody, their children, even though the relationship should be the priority, but it depends on who you got. Because some people have been taught that, some people understand that, and some people don't. You would be maybe fifth on the list in terms of priority, especially if it's a ready-made family. Even though you should be numero uno when it comes to people, especially when you become their spouse. But even leading up to that, you should at least feel like you're a priority. But I'm here to tell you, in reality, you probably won't be. Especially in the dating, they're going to date you when they got time. Does that sound like a priority? No, because you're not. And only if you're like them, where you're like, well, I got kids too. And you both are moving in that way and you're okay, and then that's fine. Then you are on the same, it's equal playing field. But if you're a person that is just free, you got time, you don't have children, you're gonna feel away. You're not trying to feel away. You're just going to. I'm just I'm just being honest with you, and you should be honest with yourself. You're going to. So with that being said, it's not gonna work. So I don't care how cute he or she is. I don't really care. Unless God tells you something specifically, it's not gonna be a great match. All right. So we've dealt with faith, we've dealt with family, children, money. Let's talk about money. And I'll give you an antidote. Now, as much as we now there's a misnomer here. There's a misnomer here when it says that educated women make more than men that have not they don't have, let's say, beyond high school a diploma. That's not true. There's some men that are skilled workers and or they're entrepreneurs and they make a lot of money. So shout out to my women if you happen to be listening. Just because he has just a high school diploma on that dating profile does not mean that he is not successful. It does not mean that he's not educated in the sense of, just again, he had a great public or private education leading to graduation, or that he is smart, intellectual. A degree is not the indicator that a person is intelligent. Trust me when I say I have multiple degrees. A degree, and I've been in multiple spaces, in multiple rooms, it's not an indicator. They may know what they know, but you'll be surprised. Some of them don't have common sense. Some of them don't have street smarts. It's a lot of things that you need in life to be successful. And there's different types of intelligence. There's multiple intelligence. It's not just book smarts. There's the manipulable smarts. There's all these things. There's in sports, there's a genius. There's intelligence in sports. There's all these different types of intelligence. All right. So with that being said, don't rule someone out because they didn't go to college. Because I'm here to tell you, there's more women than men in college. Most men don't go to college, but it doesn't mean that they're not smart. It doesn't mean that they're not savvy. It doesn't mean they're not intelligent because they chose not to continue their education after high school. Okay? So let's deal with that. So just because a woman has a degree or a man does not mean that they're making a lot of money, and it doesn't mean that they are successful. They could be up to the head with student loans, right? Which means that the money that is coming in is essentially being given away because they're having to pay back or they have a large amount of debt. So just because someone has something is not always an indicator of what the reality is regarding their bag, okay, and their finances. So that we gotten that out of the way. Know what it is that you want when it comes to the money part, okay? What I find people are often just unrealistic. You expect, let's say, for the gentleman, speaking to women, to have six figures, but you don't even have six figures. So to me, there has to be some type of equity there. If anything, if you do have a demand or requirement, you have to at least consider you this being the standard to me. But at the same time, let's be realistic. How many people on this planet, specifically of a certain social economic status, is making a certain amount of money? Let's be honest about that. So at the end of the day, to me, this is my opinion. This is a realistic standard would be what how much money are they bringing in comparison to the money that's coming out? Because to me that matters more than anything. If they don't have a lot of debt, but they don't have a lot of debt, but most of their paycheck, it can be put into savings or take care of expenses, that's a good thing. If they're not living above their means, if they're not competing with the Joneses, to me that's a good thing. So let's say they are making 50K, 60K, all right? They're not making 6, but they're making 50 or 60. But their debt to credit ratio is balanced. It's healthy. They don't have a lot of debt. So all their money that's coming in can be used towards a household and or put towards the future. To me, that's a good thing. If a person's making 7 figures, but their overhead and their debt is just the money's going out as soon as it comes in. So it to me again, a lot of us get caught up in the front. We get caught up in, yes, I make 7 figures, but when you begin to break down their budget and to see, well, but their take home is only $500 after everything's been said and done. If they have employees, they pay them. If they have this and that or whatever, after they pay for this, pay for that, pay for they don't have any, they can barely afford a haircut. So you have to be careful with that. To me, it's more about what money is coming in and how we can maximize it. So you're gonna have to dig deeper, and the only way you can dig deeper is you have to finances and having conversation about finances. Again, we're talking about debt. You can have conversations about debt because specific, you know what I mean, information, you won't be able to get that until you get a little bit more deeper in that relationship. So you're not going to be able to get it. So if they even tell you, yeah, I make 6 figures, that means absolutely nothing until you really can get into the paperwork. And more than likely, you won't get to the paperwork until you get a little bit closer in terms of marriage, to be honest, you know. But you can see how they move because there are some people, I will say, that again, they're presenting like they're successful, but yet they're asking you for money. And that's the whole problem. And I want to even go as far as to say people's jobs or careers is not necessarily an indicator that they have money. Though they may be an attorney, not all attorneys are alike. There are some attorneys that are barely making $30,000 a year, 40, 50. So, judges are capped. So, again, it depends. So, just because even teachers don't make a lot of money. These are educated people. Their certifications require licensures and they require a lot of money and continual learning through professional development. It is required within their contracts, okay? But still, they may not make a lot of money. So just because you have a great career or a person has a great career, it's not always an indicator that they're going to bring a lot of money. So going back to money, be realistic based on what it is that you're bringing to the table. You have to take that into consideration and work with the other person that you are allowing to. Yes, as a woman, you do want a man that can take care of you, that can provide and protect. I get that part. And I understand it, especially for those that do desire children, stuff like that. Yes, that person should be able to do all the things in terms of carrying a household. That is what you're looking for. But that may not necessarily look like a 6 figure income. Again, live not above your needs means live within your means. Okay, you may not need all of that. And then there are people that have the ability to make that type of money, or they have goals that are aspirational in terms of the type of money that they make. So you can take all, and they're also making steps towards a really great lucrative future. You have to look at that as well. You know what I mean? Not just what it is that they're doing today, but again, we're futurists in dating. We're considering the tomorrow as well. If there be a tomorrow, we're taking that into consideration as well. So when it comes to the money part, what you're looking for is a hard worker, or you're looking for somebody that's going to support your vision and goals. Because sometimes, yes, maybe in the lane, in the field that they're in, maybe there's no money there, but maybe you're making quite a bit of money. And if they come and help you with your vision, it'll cause you to maximize and make even more money, double, triple what it is that you're making if they come and help and support your vision. And that household, which is your household, is going to benefit off the help and support that that person is providing you. So depending on, again, what aisle you sit in terms of where what you make, choosing the right partner, and that person doesn't always have to lead in the area of finances. They can just be a helper or a supporter, you know what I mean, and helping you, freeing you up, or doing tasks and things that you would ordinarily do, free you up so that you could begin to make more money in your zone of genius. So it's about choosing the right partner. It depends on where you are and choosing the right partner. Where I'm at in this season in my life, I need the right partner. In time past, when I was in my 20s, it was more about me having a supportive role. Now I need a man that is able to play a supportive role with what I have going on. And that's just the reality of the situation. And or we can do for each other what we need for each other, meaning I can support him as well as push forward the visions that I have, and he can do the same for me. But he has to have time enough to do that. So again, and again, I'm a unicorn. I'm not even gonna hold you. I was having a conversation, talking about Dating Chronicles with a gentleman. And yes, I am, even for research purposes, I have been online through, I've been participating in this online dating process for research, really to gather data and to see if I can potentially find somebody that is suitable. And it's been interesting, y'all. It's been interesting. But this last conversation, I was like, did you read my profile? Because this brother was like, can we chat? I was like, sure. If you've read my profile. Because what I find is, again, people don't read. Again, we're dating to gather data. There's some data right on somebody's profile that we don't read. We don't even look. We don't even take the time to, okay? And that's the whole purpose of dating. It's supposed to be, at least. I said, if you read it, then maybe we can talk. Because in my opinion, there's no point of even having a conversation if you haven't at least determined if I could be suitable, and vice versa. Because you best believe I'm looking at yours. I'll tell you right off the rip. Smokers and drinkers gonna be knocked off, off the rip, disqualified. So there are qualifiers. Smokers and drinkers, no. I can't deal with smoke. My father smoked. I can't stand smoke. Okay, I can't stand it. I will never marry a smoker. Never. Because I can't stand smoke. Okay? Drinking. I don't like drinking. I used to drink in my early days. This predates salvation. I used to drink. I used to get drunk. I know what it. So I'm not coming from a lens where I've never experienced it and I'm on a high horse and I'm judgy. No, I know that world, and I don't want that in my household. My stepfather, shout out to him, God bless him, may he rest in peace, and other family members were alcoholics. Okay, other family members, God deliver them from alcoholism. So I lived in an environment where we were walking on eggshells because we had to deal with alcoholism. And I'm not saying that everybody that drinks is an alcoholic, because they're not. But all I am saying is that I don't even want to deal with it. I don't want to deal with it at all. Right. So I'm at the level of maturity where I can say that out loud with my whole chest. No shade. And people say, well, what about social drinking? What about a little wine? Listen, the Bible talks about a little wine for the stomach's sake. It's talking about medicines. I do take medicine. And I think that that's completely acceptable because it is measured. You know what I mean? There's a dose to it, a certain amount that if you follow the instructions and if you don't abuse the instructions, then you won't get drunk. And it'll serve the purpose, which is to help with some of the symptoms of your pain, okay? And it is understandable. But the social aspect, you are looking for that buzz. You are looking for I don't want any of that. I don't want that. I don't want that lifestyle, all right? I don't want it at all. And if you're a believer, I find that to be okay, let me give you an example. And this is two females, and we're just friends, and we're out on a cruise. We're on a vacation. We went on a vacation together. Shout out to her. She know who she is. I'm grateful for her then husband at the time. He allowed her to travel, and I was like, let's go. I need a traveling partner at the time, and she joined me on this. And it was around my birthday, and we ended up going to the Bahamas, but we went on a cruise. And while we were cruising, of course, you have access to everything. Okay, all inclusive. Come on, somebody. And so, we're doing our orders and whatnot. And we got to the drink part, and she wanted her little drinky drink. Okay. All right. No judgment here. That's God's word and God judges. Okay. No judgment here. I'm not gonna make you feel away. I'm gonna drink my little juice, honey, and you know what I mean? Keep that coming. Okay. A little non-alcoholic something or another. Keep that coming. So the brother that was taking our order, he took our orders and he came back. Now this is him. I didn't engage in it. I didn't initiate. I didn't nothing. I'm minding my black owned business. This brother was like, huh, I know why you didn't want no. He just said this out the blue. I know why you didn't want no alcohol. I was like, huh. I said, okay, well, why? He said, because you're saved. Now, mind you, we both saved. We we we, we both believers. Okay, we both love Jesus. Okay, but the brother, which was the waiter, which was our server, was like, you saved. That's why you didn't want. I was like, oh my gosh. I mean, hey, I try not to laugh, but I just started laughing because I thought it was funny because it was just so out of the blue. And it was like no shade for at least me. And I don't even think he was shading her either. But I just felt like God used that to convict her and say, because we had a conversation about it after he left. And she was like, oh my God. I said, because it does send a signal. You believe it or not, the Bible says there's no light and darkness, there shouldn't be mingling, right? And then the Bible does provide, saying that, it's not wise to partake. So, yeah. So there's plenty of scriptures with regards to, you know, that part of that lifestyle, to that. And so we talked about it, and she was like, "Wow, I really, really felt convicted. Like the Holy Spirit really, really convicted me in that moment." And I was like, "Wow, you know." Again, no judgment. I'm just like, "Oh, wow, I'm just listening," because I never once said, "Girl, maybe you shouldn't." Again, we grown. Like y'all got a relationship with the Father. You got the Holy Spirit. Either he gonna talk or he not, or if he's talking, you gonna listen or you're not gonna listen. Like it's to me that it's just that. It's just that simple. It's not for me to judge you. That's not my job. That's not any of our jobs right now as believers for us to judge. And so that was that. So I'm saying all that to say, being that I am a pastor, being that I am a leader of the fivefold, like having a spouse that's just out here being a drunkard, not cool. Not cool. You know what I mean? So yeah, I had to put my foot down on that. And you know what? And in the time past, I would say, well, if they just drank it for special occasions, I try to justify it in my mind, but I really had to get to the truth and say, no, that's not what I want. I have to stand on that. That is a preference, it's a strong one, and it can be a deal breaker. especially if that person is a believer. Now, that person is a non-believer, then it's like whatever. But if this person is claiming to be a believer and of a certain ilk, no. The answer is no. I don't want that in my household. I don't want that. It's just it's just confusing. Like Loki, it is. So that's that. So I'm just saying, those are the things, right? Lifestyle. If you don't party, then same lifestyle. There's more to life than a party, by the way. When I say party, meaning in the clubs, in the bars. Ask yourself, again, if you're a believer. If you're not, then that's different. But if you're not right now, see, that's the thing with a lot of you all. Y'all have been raised a certain type of way. And for right now, that's your lifestyle. But for later, when you get serious in a relationship or having kids, some of y'all become more religious. Some of y'all become more faith conscious. I want to raise my kids learning about, and then you don't want that lifestyle, but you chose a person that loves to party. You chose a person that loves going to clubs and love going to the bars. That person may not change. So I'm just saying, like, they may continue. And again, that's the way you chose them in that lifestyle, because at the time we're in that lifestyle, but deep within you, you have these core values that you push to the side for now because you're not making decisions based on the future. And that's what I'm telling you. Like, and some people are right there, they're a Hosea that are married a hoe. I just look, that's biblical. That a married Hosea married a harlot. Okay, the Bible says you're one with the harlot. All right, and you were well aware what you were getting yourself into, and then all of a sudden you get converted, and you're like, well, same with the women. You knew what type of man he was. You knew he liked going to that the cigar bar. You knew he liked smoking hookah. You know he liked he frequented them strip clubs. As a matter of fact, you went with him on occasion. So I'm just saying, like, again, lifestyle matters. When it comes to dating, lifestyles matters. And just because you don't do any of those things don't mean your life is boring. I love the arts. I love entertainment. You know what I'm saying? These are things that I enjoy going to. I can live without them, though, because there's nothing I enjoy more than God, period. So, but do I enjoy it? Yeah, concerts, okay, cool. Music, okay, fine. You know what I mean? Traveling, okay, exploring, being curious, yes. So, living a life as a believer isn't boring at all. But you have to find someone who is compatible when it comes to lifestyle. You cannot not, again, exclude that aspect when it comes to choosing somebody to be in a relationship with. You have to look at that. You can't be blind. I'm telling you, a lot of us are, I don't want to use this word, but I'm going to, for lack of a better one. We can be so desperate that we do not consider these factors at all. We're just vibing. I just want to vibe. As long as this person is a vibe, as long as I'm attracted to them for the moment, that's all that matters. I'm telling you, my friends, that is a lot from the pit of hell. There's so much more, especially if you're looking for someone or something long term and you're looking for marriage. You got to consider these factors. What did we talk about? We talked about money, we talked about family, we talked about values, we talked about faith. Now, I will say this as far as sex is concerned, it is an integral part of relationship, but for a believer, it's integral in a marriage. So what's interesting as far as the dating dynamic is that yes, you do want to choose someone who will be compatible. This is futurist now. Now we're futurists, right? In the future with you in that area. But since that area cannot be explored until after you jump the broom, okay, that's how it's supposed to be. But unfortunately, a lot of people dibble and dabble and experiment before I do. And some of them don't never make it to the altar. And or when you cross over the threshold, you may discover that you're not satisfied, even though it's a weird dynamic when it comes to your psyche. Because people don't understand when it comes to sex, it's just as mental as it is physical. When you're young, you don't know that. As you grow older, you overstand that. All right. Sex is just as mental as it is physical. All right. So if you know and you are aware that you're doing something that you have no business doing, it's like, there's a conviction that you have. It's a conviction that you have, and it carries. And there's a guilt, and then there's a shame that carries, right? Because you knew that, especially when you know better. Guilt and shame carries into the marriage, and it could unravel the marriage. It can cause a damper. There is a cloud that covers the marriage because you know that you went into this marriage unlawfully. All right. So this is what I say to people. Number one, be serious about your pursuit, meaning your intentions. Be serious. Be serious about your intention. You, as a believer, you don't date the same as an unbeliever. You have to know that. You have to know that. Your dating process is not the same. A worldly person, a person that is a non believer, can feel like they can do anything, whatever feels right to them, they can do. We, as believers, we can't move like that. All right, we can't. So we're very intentional about our selection. Some of the things we already discussed, we're taking that to the forefront, as a means of making decision as to whether this person meets the criteria or not, to even open up a discussion for conversation for a relationship. You know what I mean? We're trying to determine or predetermine if this person is a viable candidate for a spouse from the get-go. And then once we've gone through that to determine, okay, so are we equally yoked or not? Can this person, da, 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 can I see this person in the future? Do they have, da, 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 okay, cool, cool, cool. Or is this somebody that I can, give them an opportunity to show me themselves and see if they're a good fit or not? There's a threshold that they have to cross. And again, we're not trying to have hoops for people to jump over, but you do have to have a criteria because, again, we have to filter. That's why these dating profiles have filters for a reason. We have to filter as well because not anything and everybody's going to do. Like I said, there has to be a level of compatibility. So they have to qualify. They do. They have to qualify. And so knowing yourself, knowing your core values, knowing what you want, knowing what you need, knowing what God requires of you, knowing what God's purpose is for your life, all those things will make it much easier to determine if a person is suitable or not way before you get deep into this. So this is what I say. Don't get deep until you know it's a go. We don't ever go deep. We don't ever leap before we look. We got to look before we leap as believers. All right. So love yourself enough to go through this process. And trust me, the person will respect it because if they're the same or if they're like you, they're gonna do the very same thing. They're going to do the same thing. And so if you're both doing the same thing, then great. No one should be offended at any given point in time because that's what it's about. It is about finding someone who is compatible. And that's what the process is about. And once you have found somebody, okay, they meet the criteria, they are compatible. Okay, so what is God saying? And that's another component. Again, we're futurists. What is God saying about this person? Because God's not only going to speak to my now, but He's going to speak to my tomorrow. He's going to speak to my future. See, I'm only limited in what I can see. I'm limited. I can only just based on what I see in my face. You know what I mean? But God knows the future. So you are asking or inquiring. As a matter of fact, you are inquiring, and I will say this as a believer, you're inquiring the whole time. I constantly pray these prayers. This is through my dating journey. I said, God, remove them if they're not for me. And a lot of them have talked a good game. And I say, I'm rooting for you. There was a few people, you gonna be mine. Da, 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 da. And I would say, I'm rooting for you. And I wasn't trying to be funny either, but I'm like, the jury is still out. I mean, I appreciate the confidence though. You know what I mean? I appreciate the confidence. I'm rooting for you. Because and the very same folks, guess what happened to them? Put it in the comment section. What do you think happened to them? They disappeared. And these were people that were coming hard. These are people, I'm gonna make you my wife. I'm gonna this and this and this and this. I'm like, okay. And I'm so glad that there's some women that eat that up. I mean, they will just be wrapping you around their finger because you saying all the things that you want, them to say, that you want to hear. But listen, I've been through some things, and I'm not new to this. I'm true to this. Okay, when you deal with a person that it's you've heard the things before, all right, and everybody has a you you've heard the things before, so you're not like, though you are flattered, you're not fooled, if that makes sense. Everybody's got a game. Some dudes are max. They know how to. They know. Look, they got good. They got a good game. They got a good mouthpiece. You know what I'm saying? They know how to talk that talk. And we as women, we eat it up. But some of us, we're aware. We're very aware. Our senses are very heightened, and we don't buy into that because I'm constantly discerning, very discerning. So it's not what you say. I'm really looking at the spirit behind what you're saying. Okay. So when you're dealing with a person, whether male or female, that has a heightened sense of awareness and that is spiritual and they have gifts, spiritual gifts like discernment, it's going to be difficult to fool them. The only way you're going to be able to fool them is if they're not where they should be spiritually. Okay. But if they're on their A game, if they're, have their prayer life, if they're in that word and if they're fasting, and it's going to be difficult to fool that person. Trust me. It's going to be hard because they're constantly being taught and told and instructed by the Holy Spirit, where it's going to be difficult for you to fool them. And flesh, no, you're dying to it daily. So that part is no, you're not. You're being wise. You know what I mean, with your interactions. There has to be, like I said, rules of engagement. So saying all that to say, properly vet these people, right? Again, not just for your sake, but also for theirs, because you don't want to waste their time either. Know what it is that you want. Make it be clear. Be as clear as possible on your profile. I talked to another gentleman, super cool guy. But after talking to me, he was like, "You should put all that on your." I said, "Dude, there is not enough space to put all the things regarding me on my profile." I said, "But I will say this, that now by not putting, because there's some things that I did put on my profile that was to me, need to know information. But to keep it real with you, and I told the gentleman, I said, that's not for everybody to know. It's really for my person. You know what I mean? And if everybody's being prayerful, especially if the type of person that I'm into, he's prayerful, he's gonna be fine. You know what I mean? But this particular gentleman that was trying to talk to me, and I knew right off the rip that this was not a good fit. That person wasn't a good fit for me. But I wanted to entertain him just for, I felt led to do it, right? And so in the conversation, he was like, yeah, because if you put everything, let's say if you put all that, I wouldn't even reach out to you. I wouldn't even talk to you. I say, well, maybe the purpose for our connection is not for us to be in a relationship, but it's for us to have a conversation about faith. Because I'm telling you, by the end of that conversation, I believe God was in that conversation. So I told him, I said, how about this? Maybe every encounter is not for the purpose that we seek. See, he got the right one and thought he got the wrong one. See, there's always a reason, there's a season or a lifetime, right? So these connections, especially when you are being God led, there's always a purpose in the connection. There's whether it's a revelation, maybe something that you're learning about yourself or others, or it's for a divine purpose. And I believe that conversation in particular was definitely for a divine, was a spiritual purpose. God needed to convey some things, and that was a very interesting conversation. And it was another gentleman, same thing. It was like I knew from the beginning when the person's like, call me. I was like, I knew that that person wasn't my person, but I felt compelled to call them. And when I called them, when I said compelled, meaning led by the Holy Spirit, when I called them, the conversation was a great conversation. It wasn't, it was about, he said, you look like my mother, and my mother passed away, and she was a strong woman of faith, and I know I'm not where I'm supposed to be. And after we got done with that conversation, it was so fruitful. He said, I'm so glad that you called me. I'm so glad that even though we knew it wasn't going to go nowhere, it was purpose in the conversation. So I'm just saying that on this journey, please embrace it, especially if you're walking uprightly and you're doing what you have to do, and you're not sleeping around and you're not giving your heart to everybody and just living recklessly. But if you're really taking advantage of this opportunity to date and meet and mix and mingle and let your light shine, you'll be surprised. And I'm not saying missionary dating. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you are standing firm on your standards. Your standards are clear. You know what I mean? You're not out here wilding out. Again, standards are intact. You're mature. Okay. And when you enter into conversation with people, you are articulating your needs, your wants, and your desires clearly. And either they would meet the moment, and if not, okay, so be it. It's okay. So stop putting your heart into everything. Just, oh, I know he's, you see this picture, you see this guy liking your picture, and you're like, oh, or this woman, swiping to the right, or they're interested in you. You're like, oh, this potentially could be the one. Stop doing that, because you're setting yourself up for failure. Don't do that. Just say, hey, oh wait, that's cool. Okay, that's what's up. And see where it goes. If you're led to go that direction based on whether this person meets certain criteria. Like I said, the filters are there for a reason. Stop, like compromising your values. Okay, stop doing that. So I will say this with these dating, and this is my last little piece. Thank you so much for listening. Again, have your standards, don't compromise, but also, especially with these dating platforms, what I discovered is that conversations will begin, but they will just be open ended. Some will go as far as to ask for your phone number and never call you. Some would go as far as maybe call you, and conversation may seem great, but in their minds, they've made a determination that maybe you're not necessarily suitable for them, but they won't articulate it. But they'll mislead you or lead you to believe that there's hope. I want to say to those people that do that, you're wrong. You should not do that. That's wrong. It's very inappropriate to mislead people. And we talked about that in the beginning. So this is what I say to those of you all that are serious about trying to be discovered or found, or to discover your person. You got to have some standards. This is now my thing. I tell the people, especially on my profile, I let them know, I communicate it. I have to update other, because I have multiple profiles, but I have to update them. But I will say, on this particular one in particular, I'm saying you have 24 hours from the time that this person clicks on my photo, make a comment, and or express interest. You have 24 hours to communicate. If Unless they're, again, some people use it in different ways, but it's not for me to try to interpret, like, what you meant by that heart, or what you meant by that like, or what you meant by that comment. It's not for me to overwork myself to figure out what it is that you mean. You get yourself into trouble. Okay. If for whatever reason they initiated something with you, they expressed interest, they have 24 hours. This is the rule, whether it be male or female. This is the rule. They have 24 hours to communicate, what I mean, what they meant by that like, or whatever the case may be. If they do not communicate within that 24-hour period, 48-hour period, especially if you respond back, if you pay the same respect or you compliment and you're interacting with them. From the moment, let's say the moment they expressed it And the moment you thank them and or you vetted them to discover that this may be a potential, you know what I mean, person, at that moment they have within 24 hours. So let me clarify that. They reached out, they liked your picture, they complimented it, they may have even sent you a message. Okay. But for a lot of them, they can't get to the message part unless you both are on the same page with the like part. So I will say they liked yours, or you like them, and they liked you back, or you like them back. Okay. At that point, they have 24 hours. Okay. Once a message has been or communication has been, they have within 48 hours, because I do realize that people are busy and not everybody is, waiting on this, ping, from their dating app. Like, some people have it off and some people check it. You know what I mean? Like, from week to week. Some people check it every day. Some people check. So again, some people are really not as attentive as they should be. You know what I mean? And then some people have tried and it fell off. So I like to give people the benefit of the doubt. But if I want to say, if the interaction was relatively recent, meaning they liked you and you liked them back, that was immediate. And there was some communication that was immediate, and you responded back and that was immediate. They have within, I would say, 48 hours to get you off of um that messaging system, and you will have a conversation, at least over the phone. And I will say this, let's say the communication happened after the attention was established. I'm interested. Okay, cool. I'm interested too. Okay. We're now in communication in the chat. Okay. They got your number. You got their number. Okay, cool. They had within, again, that time frame to call you and or communicate. Hey, give me a call, whatever, whatever. Cool. Y'all talk. Now the challenge becomes, you're still trying to decipher whether this person is your person, but you also have to make sure, especially in this day and age, that you're not being catfished. Again, we didn't have these types of issues. This was not a thing. All right. And so that's why I encourage people, either do video chat, and or, because that'll save you time and money, and or if you're both local, then you can go meet for coffee or tea. You can do a meet and greet. Now, some people are better. I personally prefer the in person, because sometimes the video chat is not sufficient, because you're still not seeing the whole person. You're only seeing them in part. You know what I mean? So I think, to me, especially if, again, this person's meeting all the requirements, everything seems to be in alignment, blah, blah, blah. So far, so good, right? Then go ahead and have that meet and greet if they're local. If they're not local, then okay, I guess you'll have to settle for the virtual experience. But you should have it, especially if they're international or they're, across state lines, living in another state, then you need to have a lot of virtual experience if you're trying to build something. To me, more conversations should be virtual as often, again, to not only confirm their identity, but also, just to discern, because sometimes it's hard to discern, especially if it's just over the phone. But in a perfect world, meet and greet. Then at the meet and greet, once you've checked off all their who they say they are, okay, yes, okay, there is an attraction, which is important. Having that attraction is important. At least the initial attraction is important. Okay, cool. We have some morals and values that are common. There's some compatibility there. Okay, on all levels or whatever. Now we can see. Now from there, again, if the person's moving funny style, the communication is not consistent with some of these men, some of them, and then you make a decision. I think from that meet and greet, let me go back to that meet and greet. From that meet and greet, you decide whether you're going to move forward and trying to get to know this person. You should have a decision made before that meet and greet is done. So by the end of that, you're either in the process of making another opportunity for you guys to meet or go on a date, or you're saying, you know what, I just think that maybe a friendship or maybe this is not going to work, but it's so nice to meet you. At that point, you have to make a decision. Please do not drag it out beyond that. If you met them and you know it's a no or it's a no go, please be honest and tell them that. There's many times when I've had to, and though they didn't like it, but at least I was honest and I didn't mislead them. Okay. So to me, that's more important than anything. And I would want that too. If a person is just not into me after they've met me, maybe up until that point, they really liked me. But after they've met me, I just didn't do it for them. Okay. Let me know. Tell me. I mean, you don't have to tell me those words, but you can say, you know what, it's cool meeting you. You know what I'm saying? I just don't think this is gonna be a good fit. Okay, cool. It's nice meeting you. You take care of yourself. Boom. You know what I mean? So just be honest and open. So, but if you happen to meet and you happen to connect, oh, well, let's go out on another date or whatever, whatever. Or after the meet, let's say everything went well. You should expect to hear from them in some way, form, or fashion, whether it's a text message or whether it's a phone call. You should hear back from them. It should be expressed during the date, whatever it is. And then if they're really feeling you, you should be hearing from them even after the date. You know what I mean? And then having more clarifying conversations, more getting to know opportunities. Okay. Like I said, there was a situation where met was fire, meeting was fire, conversation was fire, and God literally moved them off the face of the earth. To this day, I don't even know where they are. Like weird. Because I pray those prayers. Lord, remove them if they're not for me. I pray those prayers. So I want to say this, pray those prayers, but pray and ask God even before all that, because you don't want to be emotionally connected to people and then God removing people. Put God at the forefront and say, don't even allow me to connect with them if they're not my person. As a matter of fact, just send my person. Let's narrow down. Now I get it. Some of the experience is good because it's teaching you lessons. And that's one of those things that I think people that are not having a good time with the dating process, you feel like you're being misled because number one, you're the lesson that you're not getting is that you have your emotions on your sleeve, and the Bible tells you to guard your heart with all due diligence. So if you're not guarding your heart, then that's the lesson. You need to learn how to guard your heart. So if every interaction, every like, every you know compliment, you're getting all hyped up and you're in your mind you're fantasizing about maybe this person could potentially be the one. You've idolized marriage. There's something going on with that, and the Lord's trying to teach you a lesson. Don't do that. You know what I mean? He said no other gods before me, so please don't idolize marriage. Please don't put a lot of faith and confidence and hope in people, because people will fail you. Like, for real talk. Put your confidence and faith and hope in God in this process, okay? And the Lord will never lead you astray. The Lord won't. So if you let God lead you, then hey, it may happen virtually in terms of your connection, or it may happen offline. Who's to say? I think that's all on God. But if God is leading you to go the virtual route, or if God is leading you to just be open to dating, or just open to the experience of being found or locating your spouse, learn how to be content in every season that you're in. Because if you're the type of person that you're complaining at every phase, you're complaining in your singleness. Then some of y'all get married. You're complaining while you're married. You're about your marriage. Learn to be content, right? But godliness with contentment is a great game. Learn how to be content with you, because at the end of the day, can't nobody make you happy. They can only add to your joy. So if you're misaligned with your Heavenly Father, if you're not content because you haven't discovered your purpose, that's where you should begin. To be honest, to me, you're not even ready to date and mix and mingle. I think the dating is good because it helps to build character and it helps to show you, like I said, the things that you need to see. But for those of you all that are seriously seeking a deep and meaningful relationship, such as marriage, and you haven't done your due diligence when it comes to your self work, God is not going to send your partner, because you have to understand that that man and that woman is also his son and daughter. And he's not going to put them in a position to get wounded, hurt. because hurt people because you're hurt. You understand what I'm saying? So singles, do your work. If you don't know what that consists of, that's what this channel is about. That's what the coaching, counseling space is about, for us to help you to navigate through that world. Okay. And I'm here for you, for those that need that one-to-one coaching, for those that need that counseling. I'm here for you to help you on your journey to discovery, right? Because every one of us should do our work, because we have been traumatized. We have dysfunctions. We've been raised in dysfunctional families. We're in a dysfunctional world. Okay, we're in environments that are very toxic. You don't think that it affects you in some kind of way? Some of us have been wounded by other previous relationships. Some of us have mother wounds. Some of us have father wounds, and on and on and on. Some of us have had broken hearts. All the things, that stuff you need to work through, that oftentimes we neglect. And then somehow we like, I'm ready for my person. You're really not, because you haven't done what you need to do to purge yourself of those things, to cleanse yourself of those things, to deal and unpack some of those things that you've experienced and put yourself in a position to be healed. You need to do your work. So just maybe, just maybe, you're running up against brick walls and dead ends because you're not doing your work, and you cannot heal what's not revealed. You're refusing to talk about some of the pains that you're experiencing, or you're hiding some things. It needs to be revealed so that you can heal. So I'm just being honest with you. So if this dating journey has become, and I'm not saying that's not frustrating, because like I said, we're at a different dispensation of time when it comes to dating. It's just different. We have what they call the misinformation phase. It's a lot that we're having to endure in this dispensation of time. And it does trickle down into the dating space and relationship space. It does. Okay. So, yes, it can be frustrating. I'm talking about the process in general, but your individual journey doesn't have to be. Because I want to say, for me, I ain't mad at all. Every situation that didn't work out, every opportunity that I thought was successful working out, I thank and praise God, and I rejoice, because I knew that it wasn't a good fit from the beginning. If I'm honest, you know what I mean? So I'm just saying that a lot of times the rejection is for your protection. Instead of you looking at it in a way where, I'm just being rejected because you're dealing with abandonment and rejection. You're not looking at it as God protecting you. It's for your protection. Like, God is literally blocking this demon from you. You're taking it personal, and you're making it, you're again, like, as if you're not enough. No, you are enough. That's the thing. God is protecting you because you are wide open. And if he doesn't block it, then that person is going to turn you out in a bad way. All right. And so God is blocking it because of your naivete in this space, in this world. And so, because you are naive, because you are suffering from arrested development, because you got some stuff that you need to be healed from your past, the Lord is keeping these vultures away from you, so they don't use and abuse you, and or some worse thing. Because guess what? Some worse thing can happen. God forbid you get married to a narcissist. God forbid you get married to somebody that's going to abuse you and take all that you have. Okay, so again, there are some worse things that can happen than somebody not liking your profile. There are some worse things that can happen than somebody decides not to, you know what I mean, date you and follow through on a date request or a meet and greet. There's some worse things that can happen that they don't return your phone call. Trust me, some worse thing that can happen. So just thank and praise God for him blocking it. And thank and praise God that you must have something better for me. Because trust me when I say God's word is true. He said his good and perfect gifts come from above. All his gifts consist of goodness and perfection. So whomever God has for you is perfect for you. And you need to understand that. So again, get your non-negotiables together. All right. Uh get those things together, get to know you, and understand what it is that you need and want and desire. Get all those things lined up, even down to the physical. Like I forestated, this was in the beginning. For those that y'all just joining it, we're well into this live. I think we've been in conversation for about over an hour, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not looking at the clock. But I will say we've been talking for quite some time. So feel free to watch the replay and don't forget to like this video, all right? And subscribe to the channel. I would love that. I would love that. Be a part of the community. I would love that. So we're gonna be doing more. Absolutely gonna be doing more. And so I just wanted to just share my dating chronicles. I just find it so super duper interesting. My journey. Comical child. I should write a book because it's just been absolutely hilarious in this dating space. What's interesting is about, like I said, I'm doing research, right? And this is my last thing I'm going to say, and then I'm going to call it quits. I am, right now, currently, I'm on Facebook, right? I'm on Facebook dating. I'm on the Facebook dating app. I'm going to reveal some of my secrets. I have multiple accounts on Facebook. My original account I had back in the day when everybody got on there, like back in the day. At that point in time, I was married, my kids were young, so I kept that my very first profile. I kept that. Once I got a divorce, which was like in around 2012, is when my divorce became final. For those that have ever been through a divorce, it's a very awkward phase. People are choosing sides. People don't know what they want to do with, because they love you, they love him, they love her. It's like children. They choose sides. Okay. To make a long story short, I decided to create another page. And with the page that I created, I just wanted to just disassociate from kind of like a previous situation. So I just focused on my business and I just focused on building my brand with the second. Then I have business ones, right? So right now I'm on the three dating sites because what I'm finding, and I will share with this for those that are on it, there are different pools of people on each Facebook pages or profiles. They're attracting different people, but yet the same. Okay. So what I'm noticing is that the people that initially like try to talk to me and then we maybe gotten cool or whatever, those same people are still trying to talk to me on a different platform, but they're not making the connection. They don't know it's me. And so I'm discovering who's being fake and who's being real. Okay. And I find it absolutely delightful because here's the thing, and I will say this, and I think I said it before, it's kind of hard to hide things from somebody that is spiritually discerning. It's kind of hard to hide things. There are times, and we're talking about Dating Chronicles, there are times when um I was getting to know people and I would say, Lord, what is it that they're hiding from me? Because I would sense something. I said, they're hiding something. I said, Lord, what is it that they're hiding? And I promise you, it would just fall in my lap. Like literally, God would allow me to stumble upon it. And then I would have to have these hard conversations. They said this conversation wasn't too hard. They would try to downplay how tough the conversation, but it was a hard conversation to have because it's like, I'm literally having access to your criminal history and you have warrants for your arrest and this is happening to you. Like that to me is a hard conversation to have, especially for a person that is presenting themselves to be the perfect person. They're presenting themselves to be, a leader in the space. They're presenting themselves to be put together and ready for love and Mr. Right. And now you're finding low key, you finding their dirty drawers, and you're having to bring it to their attention. Hey, I discovered that you dropped your dirty drawers on. Yeah, that's kind of like low key embarrassing for you, not for me, because this isn't my dirt, it's yours. You know what I mean? And so they try to flip it. And of course, it's whatever, trying to save face. But that's what the Lord would do. And of course, they're like, well, and that didn't work out. But the point that I'm trying to make is like, the Lord will give you the revelation. Same thing with another person. I'm like, and I didn't feel like they were hiding anything from me. But I just felt like I needed to dig deeper. I needed to dig deeper. And so I was digging deeper. And in my lap, there was this arrest record. And this person was arrested for domestic violence recently. And this person was claiming that the last relationship they were in was quite some time ago. Again, it just never pays to try to deceive a person who is really truly walking with God. Like, it would just, no. Yeah. So it's just, like I said, this has just been, and like I said, some of the same people where it's like they basically fall off the planet and they're still trying to talk to you, but they're trying to lead you to believe that they're interested in you. But they're still trying to talk to you because they're not making a connection that you're the same person that they've been talking to the whole time. I'm just saying, it's just, you'll never go wrong if you allow the Holy Spirit to lead and guide you. And I'm so not disappointed in anything, because I think, to me, it's just really great content, number one. Number two, again, they're lessons. Because what I cannot stand, and that's at the top of the list, is a liar. I would rather for you to tell me the truth. You know what I mean? So, with that being said, that's our today's Dating Chronicles. Yeah, this journey's been crazy. Crazy in a good way. But crazy. Yeah. Met a guy online. We confirmed, his identity was, looked the same, like on the picture. Cool, cool, cool. Kept on making excuses. All he wanted to do was have a relationship online. That was it. He didn't want to have anything else. He just wanted and when I say a relationship online, I'm saying a full blown relationship online. I'm like, no way. And then had the audacity, like when I was unhappy with this person's, they did something and I didn't like it. And I expressed my disappointment. They had a nerve to get toxic because I felt uncomfortable because I didn't like something. And I was like, no, you know, and I'm so grateful that, once you've been healed, there are some things that you're not even going to allow to happen. You're going to immediately discern what's going on and you're going to nip it in the bud. And I was like, we got to have a hard conversation. As handsome as he was, okay, all the things. I was like, I don't think this is going to work out. I said, this is toxic. This is not what I want. No, 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 no. It's nice getting to know you. So again, ladies and gentlemen, if you need to rehearse, you know, your closure, then rehearse your closure, because you're going to have to, on this journey, be honest and to give them that. Don't be that person. The ghost people, that's weak. That's whack. You know what I mean? Were you too scared to give them the closure and to tell them the why? You know what I mean? That you tell them you don't. This ends. This is not going anywhere. This is not moving forward. And if you have a why, tell them why. It may just be is a conflict of interest. It just may be this is not working. It just may be something specific. But whatever, rehearse your closure. Be honest. Okay, tell them, because maybe this is a good learning lesson not only for you but for them. You know what I mean? And again, you at least you tried, you put yourself out there. To me, there are no losses, there are lessons. Please know that. You're really collecting data. And so for me, in that instant, though he was dope, cool, I liked him, but I'm like, I'm proud of me. Because the old me would have made excuses. And the old me would have looked beyond the red flags. You know what I mean? Because I liked him. So no, we're not doing that. If people show you who they are, believe them. If I can't express my disappointment, and and especially if you did something that you did the thing, you did that. Like, you can't. No, you did what you did. Like, No, you take accountability. That's what we're looking for. The disappointment is the fact that you wouldn't take the accountability for the action. That was the disappointment. I was disappointed in what you did, but if you would have handled it like a champ, you know what I mean, like a grown man, if you would have been like, you know what, I was wrong. That you right. You are absolutely correct. I should have did this. I should have did that. You know, this happened, and I could have did it differently. I apologize. How can I fix it? Like how can I make amends instead of trying to make me feel like I'm wrong because you wrong me because I feel away because something happened and you didn't follow through and you didn't keep your word. You know what I mean? That's how people do. They try to do that jujitsu and try to flip your energy. They know they were wrong, but they want to make you feel bad for pointing out that you felt away about what they did. No, 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 no. That's no. No, no, no. Receive what it is, and they say, "Yeah, because I didn't talk to you for a couple weeks. You didn't notice that." I said, "You didn't notice me not calling you either. You didn't notice." You know, I was like, "This is toxic. This is crazy." Yeah. So finally, I had to. I don't think this is gonna work. Yeah. Hmm. So be proud of yourself. Be proud of the fact that you're growing. Be proud of yourself that you're not tolerating the things that you once tolerated in the past, especially if you have been through some dysfunctional stuff in relationships and you've been through abuse and stuff like that. Be proud of your growth because that's what it's telling you. It's telling you you've grown, in this journey. And stop taking everything so personal. If that person doesn't like you, please don't take that personal. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Trust me, there's somebody for everybody. We've seen the memes. We've seen the memes with the young man that was, disabled, that had those two girls and they were both kissing on him. Okay, there's somebody for everybody. Okay, there is somebody for everybody. It was at Dr. Jamal's church. There was a clip that went viral about this. I forgot his name, but I know Dr. Jamal Bryant was kept calling his name and yelling his name, talking about some hurry up, like you promised me. I forgot the. It was hilarious, but the young lady that he was trying to propose to, that he ended up proposing to, I think her name was China. I forgot his name. I think it starts with a C though. But he kept like yelling, like, get to it, get to it, get to it. And so he proposed to her, but she's not the traditional pretty girl as we would perceive to be pretty girl, of a certain complexion, of a certain size. And, she was a full figure woman that was, of a certain complexion that most people wouldn't be. Her skin was beautiful, but I'm just saying she was a, listen, okay, she was not your typical. Okay, not at all. She was a full figure woman. Okay, natural hair, but brown skin. I mean, not typical at all. But he was like, "I love you. Take me off the market." I'm like, "Yes, that's what I'm talking about. That's what we need to see more of. Regular everyday folks choosing people of different shades and sizes, of different social economic statuses. That's what I'm talking about. I'm here for it. Generally, we see these proposals. The nails is on fleek, the makeup's on, everything's perfect. Give me everyday regular. I want to see that. That gives people hope. I mean, rather than having such a high standard that only the pretty ones get taken off the market. No, there are people that may not be perceived or up to the standard of beauty that we would think, that are also being chosen, that are also being taken off the market, they're also getting married. There's somebody for everybody. So I was so happy to see. Happy shout out to China. I think that was her name because I'll never forget that. But his name, I can't remember the young man's name. But he was so happy and so willing to propose to her in front of, I mean, just loving her in front of everybody. I said, that's what I'm talking about. Because it's not about size. It's really about the soul. And I know that people would, have their preferences, and again, that's okay. But again, there's somebody out there for somebody. So I just want to encourage you and to know that yes, we all got stories and we can all compare our war stories and everything, but it's really about perspective. You know what I mean? And again, not being negatively impacted by your journey and knowing that you are at the helm of this. Whether you're a woman that's putting yourself out there, you still have a right to choose who you entertain and who you don't entertain. So let me empower you. You do have the power of choice. You don't have to entertain all these guys, right? You again have your boundaries and put them in place. You know what it is that you want and know your worth and know your value. And trust me, when you walk in that energy and you walk in your femininity, men will be attracted to you. Now we want to narrow down, because when you're a magnet, you're gonna draw all different types of things, right? And so it's about, again, having our filters so that we can properly discern who we're going to allow in our ear, especially as women. And as I'm talking to women, because there's something about our ear. If we allow the wrong somebody in our ear for too long, we will be deceived, i.e., Eve. All right. And that's a whole nother TED talk for another day. The woman's ear. So we cannot be entertained by a whole bunch of dudes. I'm telling you, we were not designed in that way, because we have a natural nature that wants to nurture. And if that man is in our ear long enough, we're going to want to help, because we have that also, the capacity to help. And this person may not be our partner. So you really got to be careful about that as women. Guard your heart, guard your ear, guard your heart. All right. Please. All right. You have to filter, you have to make sure that these people meet certain standards, and allow the Holy Spirit to be your guide, and you won't go wrong. And also, don't be weary, because in that wait, you will be worn out. You know what I mean? Especially if you're actively participating. Sometimes you have to scale back and say, my filter ain't filtering. These men that are coming up, they ain't beating the mark. Nah, let me take a pause, and it's okay, because he may come that direction, or like I said, maybe those are just lessons so that you can learn to filter even better and be more precise in your filter, be more clear. You know what I mean? In your profile, what it is that you're looking for, what it is that you're expecting, your expectations. You know what I mean? You're clarifying, you know, the things that you need to clarify. So when you do meet Mr. Right, all right, or you do meet Mrs. Right, you'll be able to discern that person a lot more easier, because you've done the work. And up to me, some of this is a part of your work, believe it or not. Very uncomfortable work, but it is a part of your work. All right, so embrace it and then learn to enjoy it, because some of it is enjoyable, believe it or not. It is. All right. So that's all I got. Y'all have an amazing rest of your Sunday. I don't even know what time it is. It is getting late. You guys are amazing. Thank you for hanging in there with me. This is my Dating Chronicles. I do love sharing my stories. There's so much more, but yeah. There was a gentleman that maybe I'll say that for next time. Yeah, I'll say that for next time, because that one is a really great share. Yeah. I will do another one soon. And when I do, I will talk about that particular story involving a gentleman that I met who lost his mother. That's a story for another day. All right, y'all. Be blessed. I will see you when I see you. Please remember to like this. Please remember to subscribe to the channel. Be a part of the community. I think we give, a nice little, I don't want to say, what is it? An assortment, a variety of different types of topics and things we share. We talked about the culture, we talked about the industry, we talked about faith, we talked about relationships, we talked about just about everything. All right. And so we're going to narrow down our focus to relationships, and we're going to narrow down our focus on personal development and wellness and mindfulness. All right. We're going to stay in our lane and we're going to continue to build. So y'all be blessed until next time, all right? Feel free to comment as well. What do you think about this particular segment? What do you think about the Dating Chronicles? Again, I'm really sharing insights and wisdom that I've gained over the duration of my years, in addition to sharing elements of my personal journey as a single woman. I'm going to say re-single because I was single and married and then yet became single again. All right. And so that's a whole different type of perspective because it's almost like full circle where it's like, oh, I'm re-entering into a lane like that because in my singleness was quite different than my singleness in this stage and phase of life. Like my singleness, I mean, like I said, it was about proximity. So it was never an issue. Never an issue. There were plenty of men. It was just about narrowing like who's a good match, who do you vibe with, who like was never no. But at a certain age and stage, it becomes a lot harder to find someone suitable because after you cross the threshold, more people are married and or unavailable because some people are getting a divorce, they're still unavailable. Some people are freshly married, they're still unavailable because they're healing. And then there's some people that are just not on, they're not interested in women. And that's where we are in this dispensation of time. Back then, we really didn't have to be overly concerned about that. I'm just being honest, and I'm talking about the early 90s in comparison to where we are right now. You know what I mean? So that's over 30 years ago. So it's just a different dating climate to where we are right now. And like I said, we have now the international community now have entered into the chat. We have now, states, interstate situations going on now. It's different. But before it was about proximity. So no, there was a lot of opportunities for dating and relationships. A lot. And so yeah. Yeah. But it's a different day, different time. Yeah. And everybody's experience is different. Where that might not necessarily be your story, but that's mine, and plenty of others, but just saying. Yeah. So we're praying for you. We're praying and we're believing God because I really do believe this. This is my closing statement that if in your heart you desire companionship and you desire that spouse, that kingdom partner, I believe God placed that desires in your heart. And I believe that if you delight yourself in the Lord, He'll give you the desires of your heart. But you must first delight yourself in the Lord, that part, in that order. Because some of us want the desires, but we're not willing to put forward the work to receive what it is that we want. So I just want to encourage you to do that. Put God first in everything. Trust me, it'll come to pass. God will work it together for your good in His timing, right? And if He loves you, and because He loves you, the gift that He's presenting or the gift that He's preparing for you is perfect. It's perfect. All right. And so it has to go through its process. So let God work on him. Let God work on her. God's got them for you. You just got to be in position to receive them. So God is waiting for you to grow to that place where you can receive them. All right. Because again, He desires for us to prosper and be of good health, even as our soul prospereth. What is our soul? Our mind, will, and emotions. That part, it has to grow, right? In order for us to receive the full prosperity that the Almighty has prepared for us. And that's why I specialize in soul coaching. And that is in the total development of soul. It's so important that we not neglect our mental or emotional. We have to, and then as well as our decision, because all those things, it really is reflected in our decision making. All right, it really does show our maturity in our decision making. And so, yep. So let's end it there. Hugs, love, and kisses. Let's hug it out. Be encouraged for those that need it. Hang on in there. All right. Dating is not for punks. I'm telling you, it's not, especially in this day and age. Be strong. You can do it. All right. Just be wise. Talk to you soon. Bye. Again, this is Dr. Kesha coming to you.